Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this week's UWEcyber seminar. And we're delighted to welcome Lewis West with us today from Hamilton Barnes. So he's going to be talking to us about the Cyber and Networks Recruitment Academy and how to secure your first job in the cybersecurity industry straight out of university. So this is going to be a really interesting talk, but I suspect you'll all be very keen to hear what tips Lewis can share with you about applying for your first job after university. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lewis. So thank you very much. Lewis, you're still on mute.
I knew that was going to happen. No, we're good. Yeah, hi you guys. Yes, obviously we've now been running the Cyber and Networks Recruitment Academy for the last 5 years now, where we talk universities and basically give you guys an insight on how to find a role in cybersecurity. Previously it was a lot more networking focused, and now it's obviously we've made a separate path in how to find one in cybersecurity as well. So just to give you a little bit of a background on Hamilton Barnes, that's our nice tree logo there. Oh, and we're getting IT issues now. Right, there we are. So who are we? So I say we are a niche recruitment consultancy. We specialize only in network engineering and cybersecurity. So the areas within cybersecurity that we focus on recruiting, you'll probably see a few vendors here that you're familiar with, maybe some you're not so far. But we recruit with technology such as from IBM, from Microsoft, from Fortinet, McAfee, Symantec, and then some of the smaller guys as well that you may or may not heard of is Splunk and Logarithm as well. We were founded in 2014, so two guys starting us, Nick and George, both had I think around sort of 20 years in recruitment now, and basically wanted to provide that specialist area to both candidates and to clients that we only do one specific little area of recruitment. There's obviously so many roles out there, and we just want to do this little bit and just be as good as we can at it, and if not, be the best. And we're based in London. We've actually, I should have updated this really. We do have an office now in New York. So our colleague Antonio moved from London over to New York last year. That was. So he's now setting up that part. But even though we're based in London, we cover global recruitment for networks and cybersecurity as far afield as from the US all the way to Australia. So a little bit more around me. So I head up the cybersecurity team at Hamilton Barnes. We're now four people in the cybersecurity team. We've just added one more into that department as well. I, like you guys, went to university, non-technical related for myself, though I studied a business management degree. Never knew anything about cybersecurity at the time. Never thought I'd be here, but really got into recruitment and technology recruitment, and then I developed a passion for myself really for cyber, and really wanted to go down that route and try and build out those cyber teams and those recruitment cycles for companies within cyber. So a little bit of why I'm saying I know works. So I have placed 62 cybersecurity specialists since 2018, in a whole number of range of jobs, across right from graduate level right to sort of like head of security, head of cyber, and CISO positions as well. I actually, before starting this and before my university days, I was a lightning protection engineer. Very, very different to what I'm doing now. So I used to climb on roofs of buildings and basically make sure if they got hit by lightning, they wouldn't get damaged. So yeah, just nice little fact there. And I'm also, for my sins, a massive Liverpool fan. So not the best of years, not as good when I was doing it last year. I had a lot more to say about it. We'll leave that one now. So obviously, why we're here, how to find the right job in cybersecurity. Often we speak to a lot of students, and they love the subject. They know a lot about the course. They know a lot about cybersecurity and the actual practical elements and what the subject is, but don't really know a lot around the market as such yet, and what types of businesses and what types of roles you can go into. So really, to break it down nice and easily, there's probably 4 types of businesses that you will work for in a cybersecurity position. So one will be the vendor. So the vendor is obviously the company and the brand that makes a particular product. So the guys like Microsoft, the guys like IBM, the guys like McAfee, the ones that have the names that you will recognize and have the badge on their products, that's the vendor. They make their products, obviously sell that on. Then we have the managed security service providers. So these are specialist security companies that work with a range of other companies, basically to look after their security solutions. So they may have things like security consultants that will come in, and if they need to do upgrades or refreshes or anything, they'll have like managed security operations centers that potentially could come in. So rather than a company have a whole outsource it to one of these specialist security companies, and we do a lot of work in this particular area with these kind of guys. Then there's the end user. So the bigger companies you'll find, and these could be any really, from Barclays will have their own security team, to London Stock Exchange, to ASOS, to you name it, Coca-Cola, all have their own in-house. And then there's a consultancy. So a consultancy is then it's almost similar to the managed security service provider, where they will supply engineers or analysts or consultants into a company. But this is typically more of a longer term placement. So you'll typically do sort of 1 to 3 years with a particular company. So it's just a little bit of a different change in the model of a managed security service provider, but just a little bit longer term. Really, we need to be thinking about now is obviously where you would like to work when you do leave university. Obviously, a lot of you guys, I'm sure, the west of England, in around Bristol, but I'm sure many of you are from different parts of the country, even different parts of the world. So you may have an idea if you even like to stay, or if you would like to move to London, move to Manchester, move, I don't know, abroad, move wherever it may be. But it's good to know where you would want to be going, so you can start targeting that specific area and that specific geographic location, really, to get the best jobs. I do speak to a lot of people, and they'll say, I don't mind where I want to work, but there are probably a few places that still, even if it is very general, you wouldn't want to go. So it's just good to have an idea of the top places where it would be the most suitable for you. It sounds quite a silly one, but what salary you're looking for. And again, I speak to a lot of graduates, and they go, I don't mind for, I just want to get into the industry. But we have to think about things like, if you were going to move out by yourself or move into a flat share or something like that, you'll need to pay rent. What are the kind of rental prices? If you're going to live in London, for example, they'll probably be a lot higher than if you were going to live in Newcastle. So you need to think about how much really your living costs would be there, and actually what salary you would need to attain a standard of living that you could be comfortable with. And also future career plans. So what the goals that you're working to. Some people may really want to become or achieve a CISSP accreditation, or be a check team lead penetration tester. It's good to have plans in place of what your end goal is going to be, and what roles can give you that opportunity. And it's things you can talk about with myself, with employers. Look, this is where I want to go. Can you support me on that journey, because this is my goal? All good things to bear in mind right at the start. Here's a bit of a breakdown of the average cybersecurity graduate salaries throughout the UK, and we take this information off of basically the candidates we work with. So these are the people we speak to. We do surveys on this to get the best accurate results. We present this to employers as well, of actually what you guys can be looking at earning when you do come out of university. So as mentioned, London, as you can probably guess, will be the highest due to cost of living. The southeast of England, not too far away. The southwest and South Wales does drop off a little bit, although we are seeing a real boom in the other way more recently, probably in the last sort of a year or so, where that number's actually probably gone higher, with a lot of companies in and around Gloucester, Cheltenham region popping up now. So that's actually probably a slightly bit higher than when we done this. I think this was 2019's figures. Then obviously the Midlands and East Anglia average around sort of the 21k mark. The further north you go, that then just dips under the £20,000 mark, and the same with Scotland. But that's a typical rough guide where you can expect the kind of ranges that you are looking at. It'd be lovely if all you guys could come out and I'd be earning £35,000-40,000. Some will, but they are a lot rarer. So it's just good to keep in mind what them salaries do look like. So as mentioned, career path at the start, we all have goals on where you want to get into your career, and this is I say loosely the word typical, but this is if you went through the levels of being in the security sector, this is really what you'd expect. Some people can jump further on and miss things out and move horizontally, etc. But if you were going to go in a ladder, this is typically what you'd look at. So you'd start in a graduate or an entry level position. Then most of the time you'll go into a cybersecurity analyst role, where you then get to handle incidents, know what different types of attacks look like, how to respond to those, analyze this, detect it as well, and get a real good understanding of that part. Then the security engineering side is then obviously developing on further than that, and actually being able to build these tools, configure these tools, make changes to them, tune them to actually change what you're wanting to detect and change what you're trying to find. Then there's the security architecture, which is actually then the designing phase. So actually it's probably a little bit, well, it is less hands-on architecture than engineering, where you'll actually be designing more probably with a pencil, how you're going to construct these systems, how you're going to design them, and how you're going to plan them. Then security consultancy is really where you'll almost combine architecture and engineering. So you'll take a project from the initial phase, have initial discussions with business leaders around what security solutions you're looking to design, what do you want to do, what are you trying to achieve from this, and then you would actually then architect the design from that, and then go and engineer and do the deployment and do the configurations, and take that through to completion. Then we have pre-sales. So pre-sales is almost linked to almost like cybersecurity business. So you're not a salesperson, which the name often confuses people. You work very closely with the sales team, but you will be the technical head, the person who can actually say, yes, what X salesman is saying can actually be deployed, that can be achieved, or sometimes it cannot because of certain things, the rest of the infrastructure. So this person is that technical brain to see if actually what companies are selling businesses can be achieved. And then we have sort of a team leader management positions, which we'll have in each one of them. So you would have a cybersecurity analyst manager, a cybersecurity engineering manager, an architecture manager, so on and so on. And then right at the top of the tree, in pretty much most companies, you will have a head of security, head of cyber, or a CISO level person who is then responsible for everything within that and everyone within it as well. On the right hand side is really a few areas that you can break down. Again, there are some that cross over, and there are some there's probably more to expand within that as well. But to keep it fairly simple and to box things in, we have obviously the blue team, which I'm sure some of you guys would have heard of, which is the defensive side of cybersecurity. Then we have the red team, which this is where I normally, if we could all see each other and could all hear each other, I'd ask the question, who wants to be a ethical hacker or a penetration tester, and I'd see a whole sea of hands. This is obviously what's in the red team side. Then the guys doing the hacking, the guys doing the vulnerability assessment, and actually doing the offensive side of security. Purple team, not as common, but you do see these people. It's actually one person will do both the blue team and the red team. So they come up with a great name of purple team to combine them colors. Then we have the governance, risk and compliance side. So this really is looking into legislation, government standards, things like ISO 27001, SOC 2 standards, all the governance and the legislation that security designs have to meet. And then also looking at the risk assessment, business impacts, if there was an attack, what are they compliant with laws, legislation, and just looking at more of it as an impact. This typically seems to be less technical than and less hands-on, but still very much in terms of strategy and cybersecurity thinking, a great place to be working. Then we have network security. So this can be more around the firewalls and more into like a network kind of sitting just on the edge of networks in cybersecurity, where you'll be looking at firewalls, incident prevention, incident detection, and typically if you go into this kind of area, you'll pick up networking knowledge as well, such as routing, such as switching, such as wireless LAN, all things that will then sit very, very closely, because obviously the network security is to protect them devices. And then we actually look at then the application security, so more the software side of that as well. So that's just a little breakdown of the kind of areas and the kind of career path you could be expecting. And then we have specializations within these areas. So it could be broke down into a few areas. So in terms of the Security Operations Center, incident response is what most people will tend to do to start with. So that will be sitting in a big bank of desks. An incident comes in or a flag comes in that the system has picked up. Your role will then be to find out what that incident is, where did it come from, is anything under attack, what's compromised, and to, as the name says, respond to that problem, respond to that issue or that incident. Then there's digital forensics, understanding where and like analyzing previous attacks to see if there's any patterns, any footprints, any identification to actually piece together who may have attacked or what kind of attack it's been, to actually dig through that a little bit more. You see these quite a lot in like police forces and things like that. They will have big digital forensics team to look and to criminally investigate these kind of cyber attacks. As we mentioned, network security, so sitting very, very closely within the security team. Threat intelligence, so this side is a lot more around where attacks have come from, what are new attacks, reading up about the latest and greatest issues there are and attacks there are, and what would be exposed in their infrastructure if one of these attacks come in. Would even the system and the tools that are in place pick up these new types of attack, or has the hacker found a path around it and found a loophole around it? So do those areas need to be closed? So it's almost like a proactive investigation into what potentially could happen. And then again, vulnerability management links it quite nicely with threat intelligence. So that is then linked to where in your network is vulnerable, where is open to attack, where is an easy path for a hacker. And a good part of this, you'll get to do some penetration testing in this kind of role to actually try and break that network and try and find where the weak spots are. And then obviously what your services are there to do is then produce that report to try and give advice on how to best prevent against that happening again, and how someone who's probably not got the best of intentions to stop them getting in. And then mentioned there's cyber consultancy work. So that will then be working with customers, understanding security needs, understanding their issues, and really producing a solution that's going to meet that. This is a more of a senior level position. Typically, I do have one story about a chap actually come from UWE. He graduated last year, and he managed to find a graduate role straight into cybersecurity consultancy. They was offering him a great training program, 6 months of training, dedicated training to get into consultancy level off the bat. And he actually managed to skip all those other parts and go straight into consultancy work. So there is opportunities, and he's done the same course that you guys were doing. So it's definitely a possibility and a route to go if you'd want to go into that. It's not necessarily just a senior position. So obviously there's many different avenues for you to explore when you're trying to find a job. Obviously the big one for us and what we do, we are the recruitment agency. So, but that's only one way to find a role. Obviously we have our benefits, we have our perks, but it's not the only way you guys can go to find a job. Also, I'm sure you guys have heard of job boards, seen job boards, been on job boards before. So these are companies such as CW Jobs, CV Library, Indeed, Reed, all companies like this, where companies will post adverts, post job descriptions, and you can apply via them as well, and that will go directly to the employer who's offering the role as well. Then you can apply directly to a company's HR. So you might really want to work at McAfee, for example. There's nothing stopping you finding out who the HR manager is or HR director is at McAfee and applying, or even applying for the website, finding out like a recruitment at McAfee.com page, for example. You can apply directly through to these HR teams who will have graduate positions, who will have other positions as well that you can apply directly to. And the big one really in recent years has now been LinkedIn. So we've seen a real shift and a real big push that LinkedIn's doing to actually trying to incorporate things that a recruitment agency does and things that job boards do to actually have their own sort of job board within LinkedIn now. You may have seen little things like on people's profile pictures on like open to work now, and it's trying to become a much more inclusive recruitment tool. And think of this really as like a Facebook for business. I'm sure some of you guys would have seen it, but maybe some of you have not. But it's really how over the next sort of 5-10 years, recruitment's going to shift more and more to LinkedIn. So obviously, reason why we're here, while we us guys have a job, is obviously the benefits of using a recruitment company for you guys to secure a job is we have a broad client list. Like I say, all I do from 7 in the morning until 7 at night is speak to cybersecurity managers, cybersecurity companies, cybersecurity departments that we all have working relationships with that give me jobs, and we have those client bases and those contacts already in place. with a number of different companies, all the different types I just mentioned before: end users, consultancies, vendors, MSSPs. We have lists of all of those. We're able to provide you with clear job descriptions and company information. So this is a big bugbearer, for people in recruitment, that often job descriptions are wish lists, and they're not written in the best way. Some actually copy and paste one role and think it's similar to another, and just think, oh, that will be okay, and we'll just use that one again. This could be a bit of a minefield to go through. So we qualify every role we do with the manager, who is actually going to be hiring, who is actually going to be responsible for you. So they are able to give me a clear idea of what they're looking for, what you'll be doing, the kind of things you'll be getting involved in, the kind of training you'll do, and also then the background company information, size of the team, what the team culture's like, all things that you're probably not going to see on a job spec. We're all having a chat to understand that and building relationships with that company, so we can give you guys that information straight away. We're able to talk you through interview preparation. So again, we'll have worked for some of these companies for the last 3-4 years, have seen many people going in. We'll get an idea of the questions you're going to ask. I know one of my managers, Sean, really nice guy. He will ask the question of, if you had all the money in the world, what is the one security issue you would solve? And we already know through all the time recruiting for him, there's no right answer to that question, but there's one wrong answer that he always looks for. And if someone says training for the end user, he knows, no, that's the wrong answer to the question, because there's other issues. There's the user can ignore it, cannot take this information in, so that would not necessarily solve the issue. Little things like that, we're able to give you those little inside details that you're probably not going to get elsewhere, and just so when you do enter an interview, you have a good idea of actually what things you're going to be asked and what topics are going to be brought up, because we know we've seen this before, basically. Interview training, so coaching on how to answer questions, the best way to, especially in the terms of a graduate sense. A lot of these roles, you may have only seen a few of these topics or a few of these skills they're looking for, or only partially learnt them so far. So it's just about how to answer questions and explain what you have done and what you do know. But you don't have to give an answer of no, you just explain what you are aware of. And then all you have to say is, look, I haven't got that far yet. My development's, I'm still not that far. So I know enough at this point, but past that, I'm a little bit unsure. But it's just little tips, little tricks to actually ask questions and how to answer questions when you're in an interview. We're able to provide you with multiple opportunities as well. As mentioned, we've got a broad reach of clients. So you would only really, if you came and look for me to find you a job, you may speak to me. I will then provide you, hopefully, with 4 or 5 different opportunities, and the continuity will stay exactly the same. You'll only speak to me. I'll tell you about each role, and you won't have to chase other people, speak to loads of different companies. We will be your sole point of contact, essentially, for those positions. And we're able to guide you through the whole process, really, right from the start, from writing your CV, preparation around that, skills to put on your CV, right through interview techniques, even then to getting the offer, accepting it, what to do, when to start, things like if you need to move house, find somewhere to live. We can manage all that with the company and do a lot of that legwork for you. That's part of our process that we do. And this is the big one. It's free for you guys. So the company pays us a fee. Essentially for candidates, it's a free service. And you don't get a lot of things for free now. So the fact that you can get all that and get all this guidance, assistance, it's there. Take advantage of it. Whether it's myself, obviously I'm not going to encourage you to go speak to other people, but if you do, fair play. but yeah, recruitment's free. So I'd encourage you in that sense to use recruitment, because you are getting a lot more assistance, a lot more help when finding a job, and you're not having to pay for none of it. So this is a little breakdown of services, how people find a job. This is across the whole market, not just graduate sector. So we've got the job boards there, recruitment slightly lower. Apply directly, just similar around a recruiter. Some people, believe it or not, recruit still through a newspaper. Not us, I must add, but some people still do. Recommendations and referrals, so anyone you've previously worked with, anyone you know in companies, can basically do a bit of a character reference and speak to their manager and basically give an opinion and say, yep, like this is the person I know, I think they'll be good for the team, can we interview them, and come in that way and just get a little bit of a step in as you've got someone sort of championing you from within. LinkedIn, as we said, LinkedIn's booming now. It's very easy, it's very instant messaging, and it's a lot less, it's a lot more user friendly, should I say. So I think LinkedIn's seen a real surge now in terms of its use to find a job. And then social media pages, pretty much every company now has a Twitter page, an Instagram page, a Facebook page even. A lot of the times, if companies are advertising, they will advertise on these sites as well. So the services that graduates use to find a role, job boards is quite prevalent, still in their search. Recruitment, I think again we're slightly underused. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of actually what we can do, and that it's actually free. That's the big thing. We speak to a lot of candidates, a lot of graduates that don't realise this. I never did, to be honest with you, until I worked in this industry. I was at university and spoke to recruiters and thought, well, am I going to have to pay them money? But yeah, didn't realise until I left, until I worked in it. Applied directly, dropped slightly down as well. No graduates apply for a newspaper. I'm not surprised. I don't know if any of you guys still read newspaper, but yeah, it's becoming less and less common now. Recommendations and referrals, so any things like parents, family, friends, people you've been to university before with, they may be older students, etc., could refer you into their manager. That's in a real kick as well. LinkedIn, massively underutilized. A lot of people don't have their LinkedIn profile set up to maximize their opportunity to use it and to get a job. Again, I was definitely one of these people before working in recruitment. I left university, never had a LinkedIn page set up, never had a photo on it, never had no descriptions on it. I didn't maximize it to actually find a job. And then there was none for social media either. So this is a little bit more of a chat around sort of optimizing your CV and your online profile to make you the most attractive you can be to potential employers. So one of the things that recruiters use and employers use, it's keyword searching. That's how we find people's profiles and the most relevant profiles. So just bear that in mind. I'll run through a few things for you to take away from this, but things like certifications is a great thing to be posting on your CV, because people will search roles from certificates and from what you need to do that. So definitely, if you guys have done any industry certificates, list them. There's many on there. There's lots of free ones now, like Splunk Fundamentals, for example, is a free course on Splunk's website. There's an industry recognized certification. All things like that. It's great to show what you have done extra outside of your module, outside of your university course curriculum. Certifications is a real thing to show. It shows interest in the market as well. I'm sure many of you guys will. There's a big class of you even here today. There's obviously universities up and down the country, all with cybersecurity students that will be leaving. You want to try and put yourself in that top bracket as much as you can and try and raise your head above the parapet as such. And certification is a great way to do that, to show that you've actually gone away and studied yourself. Security tools. So I'm sure a lot of you guys will use tools in your degree. Things such as Nessus, Metasploit, Kali Linux, even things like Elasticsearch, maybe Elk Stack. I probably missed a load off more there, but these are all things that are quantifiable to to employers. Obviously, modules of university courses have titles, have actually like fancy titles as well, I must add. But a lot of these won't mean a lot to the industry. So what you really want to be doing is actually talking about what you do in these modules. The tools you use is a great thing because it shows it's quantifiable again and shows an employer that you have experience with a tool, and they may use a similar tool, but it's just good to know actually what have you done, what practically have you done. It's a great way to show that. Future certifications, again, these are keyword searches again. So if I would even write a quote such as we've got here, this is actually one adapted from a networking student's CV. But having completed my degree in networking, I'm keen to continue my development in a progressive organization where I can ultimately reach my goal to become a CCIE. So this is again tailored for a networking student, but if you were looking for if you wanted to become a CISSP or a CISM, for example, and really attain that goal, that high level of industry recognized certification, state it, mention it, because the big thing employers want, especially from graduates, is commitment and interest in the subject, not that you thought I'll do cybersecurity because it's going to pay me loads of money. That's not a good answer to give. So they want people who are driven, who are interested, and who really have a goal and have a clear outcome of where they want to go in the industry. Technology passions again. So I know I mentioned, I'm sure there's many of you, even though I can't hear you, who love hacking. Mention that. Talk about communities that you get involved with. Things like Hack the Box, any sort of online communities, forums, anything like that you contribute to, and really highlight your passion for that particular area and for that particular technology. Location and postcode search. So this is often left out, and this is probably going to be, it's a very, very simple thing that will really alter the kind of jobs you get sent. So it's important to include a location or a postcode, either or, of where you want to work, and it's where you want to work really. So as you guys, many of you will probably be in Bristol, but if you're looking for a role in London and you've got Bristol on your CV, you're going to get spoke about around roles in Bristol. You might not even live in London, but it's important to put where you are looking to work for that. And even if you're going to use a postcode, myself, the biggest advice I give, again, football being of interest, if I wanted to work in Manchester, I would put the Man United Stadium's Old Trafford. I put their postcode on my CV. So when people are searching around their postcodes, you will be brought up and you'll be spoke about roles in Manchester per se. So a very important thing, that one, and I say it's very simple to include. Again, optimizing your CV. So this is really how I would structure your CV going through. So at the top, you want to have your personal profile. So this is your chance to sell yourself, basically. 5, 6, 7 lines, something like that. Who are you? Again, it's a very, very open question, very wishy-washy, not very tangible, but just talk about what you're doing, the fact you're a student, what you're enjoying, even things that interest you outside of security and IT. You may, I don't know, race cars or like hairdressing, or I don't know, it could be anything, but just talking a little bit about you and just providing a bit more color around actually what you are and who you are really. So that's what you want to open your CV with. Then your work experience. So some of you guys, I'm sure, will have done things such as placement years or internships. Definitely, if any of you've done that, I'd be highlighting it and almost writing it in red letters and putting a big box around it, because if you can have any work experience and highlight that, that's going to be so attractive to employers. And then likewise, even if it's not IT related, there's a lot of transferable skills that coming from other positions, even things like service positions. Myself, I worked in Tesco when I was at university. If you've done anything like that, been a waiter or waitress, or worked in a supermarket, whatever it may be, just talk about your work experience. And again, this sounds very, very simple as well, but dumb it down. You might think it's very obvious that what does someone in Tesco do, but the way you want to be writing it is if someone doesn't know. So I stack the shelves, I have to scan things through a till, I have to reduce prices of things. It sounds very obvious, but the more detail you can give, the better around these things. So really do explain it and don't take anything for granted. Education, again, talk about what you've done at university and even before, in your A levels. Some go back to GCSEs as well. GCSEs, it's up to you. Preference over the person, really. But yeah, definitely talk about your A levels, and your degree as well. What you've done, what modules, what grades, and ultimately what you did in those as well. So this is the bit that's presenting your CV as you, your hobbies, your interest. What do you do? Do you volunteer? Do you like skiing? Anything like that, just to show what do you do outside of work. And especially in IT, now we're speaking to a lot of employers, and now they'll ask me the question. So they'll go with Lewis, like, okay, this guy looks great, loves hacking, loves networking, all this kind of stuff. What does he do when he's not not involved with IT and not involved with security? Because they want to know that you're a well-rounded person, and ultimately they're wanting you to join the company, not you as an engineer or you as an analyst. So talk about what's of interest, and it may sound ridiculous. I've seen people get roles over other people because of their interests, because of what they do outside of the IT world. One company I know loves to hear about people's volunteer work, what they give back to the community, and looks really favourably on it. So all things to definitely include. So as mentioned, LinkedIn is becoming very, very prominent now. And I'm sure some of you guys would have maybe started a LinkedIn profile, but may have not completed it. But this is really what you need for a good LinkedIn profile. So as mentioned, again, it's a Facebook for business. I'm sure many of you guys use Facebook as well, but it is very, very common now, and need to be used almost as if you are using Facebook. It is very similar, frighteningly similar. Sorry. For you guys, make sure you have a photo, professional photo as well. Nothing of you on a night out or drunk or with a group of your mates or anything like that. It needs to be a professional photo. Think of it almost like a passport photo, just a headshot. Just make sure you're looking normal and have no silly hats on, sunglasses. You wouldn't believe some of the best ones we've seen. We have seen many. But yeah, definitely the photo. I think there's a statistic that your profile gets looked at 5 times more if you have a photo than if you don't. So very, very important to have one on there. Again, much as you did in your CV, list your skills and list your accreditations or certifications that you have done. There's a nice little section in there which gives you a chance to type in what you have worked with. So again, if it is Linux, if it is Nessus, if it is Wireshark, if it is Metasploit, anything like that, list them on your profile. If you've used it, make sure you're getting them down. A brief around what you've covered at university. So again, you may be able to almost sort of drag and drop some of this from your CV over to your LinkedIn profile, but talk about your background and what you have done at university. There's a nice space on the bottom for recommendations. For you guys, if you can, ask your lecturers, seminar tutors, ask former employers to It's very easy. They'll send you a message and you can attach it to your profile. And it's just a good way of other people just talking about how you are in a professional setting. I'm sure I'll share my profile with you guys at the end, but I've got about 25, 20 to 25, 26 LinkedIn recommendations now, and it's just a nice way of getting endorsed, and other people who don't know you yet get just a bit of a sense about you and what you've done and how you are really. There's a nice little handy feature when you start editing your profile, which will give you a percentage of how much you've completed. Again, it's almost like search engine optimization. Try and complete 90% if you can, because the more you complete, the higher up in searches you'll appear. So it's very important that you do complete as much as you can and do fill in everything that you can. And then there's a nice part where you can follow companies that you are interested in. So if, as mentioned, going back to the McAfee story, if you really like McAfee, really want to work there, follow those companies, follow your interests. There'll be news articles around there. There'll be updates on company performance, new product releases, new things are rolling out, jobs, etc. So much as Facebook does as well, you'll connect with friends that you're wanting to see, and it'll all appear in a news feed as such, the companies that you're interested in and the people you're interested in as well. And join networking groups. Again, there's many hacking communities or consultancy roles, consultancy groups that you can join and share and communicate with like-minded people. Make sure you're attending careers fairs, STEM fairs. I'm sure maybe not this year, but a lot of these people will come around with stalls. Companies will come in to talk to about them. It's a great opportunity for you to meet these employers. You may not even work with these straight off the bat and in your first role, but maybe 2, 3, 4 roles down the line, you may come across them and recall of when you met at a UWE careers fair. And again, it's a good idea to get good opportunity to get an idea of the company culture. A lot of these people will place recently graduated students in these positions who have joined these companies to talk about their experience and give you an idea of what it's like going from universities into these companies. Hear from the horse's mouth what it's like. They'll be the best people to speak to because they're in that business now. It's a great opportunity for you to network, again, speak to people who are in the industry that you're trying to get into. Even you may pick up some tips, some advice, anything like that will help you once you're in the industry. Interview preparation, very important. This is talking again for face-to-face interviews, not happening at the moment. Everything's done over Microsoft Teams. But if you're going to an interview, print off your CV and take your CVs with you. It shows a level of preparation, just one above what would be expected. If you can walk in and say, yeah, here's my CV, print off 2 or 3 copies, you'll probably only get a maximum of 2 or 3 interviewers in that session. So that will be a good, it's just showing that willingness and showing that preparation that you've already done so far. And it's just a little tick in the plus column, sorry. Take a map or look on Google Maps and make sure you know exactly where that interview is going to happen, because I'll be perfectly honest with you, if you are late, even if it is a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, you're not going to get the role. That's it's almost a golden rule. Make sure you're on time, because if not, it'll be very unlikely that you will get that role. Be flexible in interview times. A lot of these companies will have roles that if you're interviewing with the cybersecurity analyst manager, he will be handling all the duties of the cybersecurity analyst manager as well as then interviewing. So try and be as flexible as you can. If you can do later on in the evening or early morning sessions, or even just giving a range of times throughout the day. Don't say I'm available at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday and that's it, kind of thing, because he or she or they may have a lot more things in their diary around that time as well. Make sure you dress smartly. Goes without saying. It seems very obvious, but we've had people turn up in full leather coats, hats on, tracksuit bottoms before. It seems very straightforward, but not many people do. Well, sorry, should I say many people do, but there are still some outliers that don't dress smart. Make sure you're researching the business. You're going to get asked a question pretty much in every interview you go to. What do you know about us? And this is how they find you out quite quickly. If you've just turned up and you've got a big list of interviews and you're going, which one am I going to today? They want to know that you really care and you really want to work for their business. And you do have to prep. Look at the interviewer's LinkedIn profile. We'll always share that with you, who you're actually going to be speaking to, so you can do your background on them, because they're going to do their background on you before they even meet you. So really make sure you know who you're speaking to and the company and their background, and research their company's social media platform as well. Initiatives like they're doing, charity days, fundraising days, anything like that. It's just a good conversation starter and a good way to, again, show willingness and interest. And that's really, as much as I probably keep saying it, showing your interest and showing how keen you are really cannot be understated. And the more you can just show that and evidence that, if it's yourself up against someone else who isn't as prepared or who isn't as interested, they're going to go with you. That's the long and short of it, really. And prepare questions. I will speak to every candidate I ever have for any interview and say, please write your questions down before you go into that interview, because you'll get in there, you may do a brilliant interview, come to the end of an hour and everything's gone out of your mind, and then you're relaxed and you'll get the question asked, do you have any questions? If you say the word no, I don't have any questions, it shows, again, a lack of interest. They want you to be inquisitive, they want you to dig deeper. And again, make sure you're asking sensible business questions around the role and around the company, not how long's my lunch hour or how much am I going to get paid or what's my bonus. They're not the kinds of questions for this. You want to be showing your interest. Tell me more about the role. Tell me what training I'm going to do. Tell me in the next 5 years, where would I be if I go down this route? Those kind of sensible questions. Interview technique. So first impressions are key. Treat it like a business meeting. So formal. Make sure you're very polite. Again, we have some people who have issues swearing and letting them slip out. Don't be doing that. Be very, very cautious and very careful around what you're saying. Almost treat it as if you're speaking to your gran. Basically, keep it very PG. Always try and relate situations back to your university and your real life and your previous work experience as well. If you can evidence what you've done, that's a great way of actually backing up what you've said and what's been asked of you. Again, sounds very silly, but concentrate on getting the role. You're there for one objective, and that is to get that job. So everything you want to be trying to work towards is to get that role. That's the aim within this. It's not to have a chat. It's not to have a socialize. You're there with one objective, and that's to get the role. Again, make sure you prepare, have some questions ready to ask and ready to go. Ask the clients if they have any questions for you. You may have talked about something and then you may have moved on to another subject very quickly, and the interviewer may have more questions. So it's a good opportunity for you to ask them, do you have anything for me? They may ask you to follow up on something or dig a little bit deeper on something else, and actually that could be the difference maker. We don't know. These things are often by such tight margins. If you can just explain and clarify a little bit more and give the client the opportunity to ask these questions, that will really help. And again, always show interest. I know I keep banging on about it, but please do. And try and close at the end of the interview. Again, if you do want this job, and it's only genuinely if you do want it, you may apply for 3 or 4 roles at a time. But if that's the job that you want, there's no harm in telling the people. They want you to be interested. They want you to know that you want that role. Tell them that I want this job. If you offered me, I'm taking it. Basically, there's definitely no harm in that at all. And it, again, if it comes down to you and another person who maybe is not showing that level of interest, you're more likely to then get in front because you do have that attitude and that interest there. So I appreciate I've just rattled through a hell of a lot very, very quickly. Well, we are now on the hour anyway. I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions. So I'll hand over to you, Phil, and let you go ahead and open the room.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Lewis.
No problem.
Very, very interesting. Let me just do this. Okay, so students should be able to unmute themselves if they wish to speak. There are a few questions in the comments, so I'll just go through some of those. And obviously, if you've got further questions, please do put them in. We've just had a question from Katie asking, are there openings for mature and extra mature students?
Yes, definitely. I'll be honest with you, more in the employment market, you're not classified as a mature student or as an older student. You are a graduate. At the end of the day, you come out. There's no, again, with things like equal opportunities, etc. There's lots of inclusion and lots of positions that you won't even specify your age. You will be a cybersecurity graduate, not a mature graduate.
Excellent. There's another one that's basically talking about certifications. So what would your view on certifications be, I guess?
My view is the more you can do, the better. Obviously, they cost money. Some of them are very expensive, but there are a lot of free ones. Again, I'm not sponsored by Splunk or anything like that, but Splunk do a great free one. It takes 7 hours probably to complete, but those certificates will really help and really benefit you. And again, you're going to go up and compete against thousands of other cybersecurity graduates over the next couple of months. If you're in your final year, the more you can show that you've done and you've tried to learn more and you've expanded your knowledge, the better it's going to be. And it's not all about just finding the job. You're going to expand your knowledge base as well on that particular subject. So couldn't be more strongly pro, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Scott asks, on average, how many people that go through your service actually get a job versus those that don't?
Oh, right, that's a good question. I don't have my figures there on that one, unfortunately. But yeah, so yeah, no, I'd have to check my statistics on that one. But yeah, we speak to a lot of people. Obviously, we can give you lots of tips, lots of advice. Unfortunately, one thing we can't do is guarantee you a role. It'd be nice if we could. But yeah, we do. There is a real benefit to that in terms of the support you're going to get. But ultimately, in anything, it does come down to you guys to get the jobs. We'll be there. We'll help you every step of the way, support you. But yeah, no, unfortunately, I can't give you those figures.
Yeah, that's all right. A question about how long do people typically spend at each position before moving up? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the typical tenure really is probably 2 to 3 years. Definitely from the start, when you're starting your career, it does work at probably from graduate to almost, I say normal level, is because it's not got a senior title, but then you'll go from trainee or graduate to just a cybersecurity analyst, say. That's typically 1 to 2 years. Then to go to senior, it's probably another 2 to 3 years. But yeah, the average length of tenure you probably spend in a role, and this is across the whole industry anyway, is 2 to 3 years. If that's changing companies, whether that's promotions, whether that is moving sideways, that's the average length of time. But ultimately, there is no set time frame, because if you're good enough, you can go up a lot quicker. Or if you progress your knowledge in certain areas because you've got certain certificates, got certain accreditations, you can speed that process up by you. So there is no set defined amount, but that's really to give you a bit of a guide it's that sort of couple of years is typically what we see.
That's great. Another question, from the time of applying to you, for instance, if someone sends their CV to you, how long do you reckon it would take to secure a job?
Right, so this is something we really push. So from the time of CV sent, so I can't say from the time we receive it, because obviously it takes that right job to come up, but from that first initial call where we will tell you about that role, to then going through that stage, then through probably a couple of rounds of interviews, and then to offer, and then to contract, is probably 2 weeks, right? And that is very quick compared to if you went directly to a HR team, because we are here on both sides to drive the process forward. So this is why we are quite regimented in follow-ups, booking in feedback calls, booking in next steps, to try and condense that and make that as small as possible. So typically our recruitment cycle would probably be 2 to 3 weeks on the safe side, depending if there's how many stages of interviews, because some you'll get a 1-stage interview, most common you'll get 2, and now some companies are going 3-stage interviews, but they are less common.
Okay, excellent. Another question here then. In general, did interview success rates improve using online media in the last year or not?
Sorry, can you say that one again? I missed that, Phil.
Yeah. Well, did interview success rates improve using online media in the last year or not? Tatiana, do you want to come on? Do you want to turn your mic on to ask that question?
Hi, hello, sorry. Was just curious if the interview success rates have improved over using Teams, for example, in the last year or not, rather than in person.
Right. Okay. I wouldn't say the success rate's gone up. The best thing has been this is revolutionized the way we've done recruitment. We love video interviews as recruiters. These are the best things they could be, because scheduling is really good. A lot of you guys, you don't have the stress of getting to interviews. You can be a lot more prepared, and you can have really notes set out in front of you where the employer's not going to see you. Success rates is a hard one to define, because we are still placing roles, we are still filling roles on both sides. But yeah, it's definitely been a good change, and able to give people a lot more information, actually doing video calls, because I think where before we should do a lot over the phone at first stage, which would be a lot more condensed. So probably the level of preparation and the level of knowledge you're actually getting from these interviews now has gone up. But yeah, success rates have still been very good, if I'm perfectly honest with you. This is an industry-wide thing, but at the moment, this is the last 4 months. So we've been in the industry 7 years now. The last 4 months in this sector has never been better in terms of the amount of people placed, amount of people getting jobs. It's been crazy. So if you look at it indirectly, I'd say yes, it has been good, and yes, it has improved success. But I don't know if it's the video interview part that's playing that factor really.
Excellent. So we'll take 2 more questions, because I'm conscious we have run over time.
Cool.
So Alan's asking, how would you suggest approaching companies for employer sponsorship for something like a master's?
Oh, right.
Is that something you deal with?
Unfortunately not. Because if you're still going to the master's course, it's something I think once you're in industry, people tend not to leave and then go and do it, unless it's really specified by the employer that they want you to do that. So we don't really see too much of that. And unfortunately, things like, I know I'm sort of slightly deviating from the question, but things like placement years, etc., or internships while you're doing that, where you're able to work and study still, we don't really see a lot, because basically companies won't pay our fees for them. So they have no need for us. We don't really have a lot of insight into that, unfortunately.
That's all right. So, Alan, just to add my 2 cents onto that, so you might have seen my email a couple of weeks back, which was from Ministry of Defence, and they were actually saying, "Oh, we've got jobs opening, and one of the perks of the job would be to offer part-time study for a master's program as well." So I think it's one of those where it's really on a case-by-case basis. I suspect the best advice is get your foot in the door with the company that you're interested in. Once you're in the job, then you can start thinking about, right, how do I negotiate having a day off a week or whatever it be in order to do part-time study. So it's not something that Lewis and his team would be dealing with as a recruitment firm, but it's something you could discuss with an employer once you're in a post. So then the last question I'm going to take, because as I say, I'm conscious we've run over time,
No problem.
is which cybersecurity roles would you suggest for beginners? Anything on that front?
Yes, so the most common role we see beginners go into is SOC analysts or cybersecurity analyst position. This is really where you're going to start understanding the types of attacks, how they form, what they look like, and how to triage them and how to respond to them. That's the often quote unquote normal entry route we find. And again, I know I speak to a lot of grads who want to go pen testing, etc., and go into that red team services. To get into that kind of environment, you have to go, well, I say you have to, 9 times out of 10, you will go through the SOC first to understand how to defend against all these incidents, to then move on to that further thing. So SOC analyst, security analyst positions will be probably the most common and the best way into the market.
Excellent. And again, if I may add my 2 cents onto this, cybersecurity analyst seems to be the most common job role that we see alumni going on. Lewis was talking about LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is fantastic because what I am able to do, I keep a network with alumni students who add me on LinkedIn. I get to see, oh, they've taken cybersecurity analyst at, let's pick Aviva, because it's just down the road from us. Okay, a lot of our grads go to Aviva, and what I get to actually see, because they've joined us on LinkedIn, is that a year down the line they're saying, oh, so and so's just been promoted to senior cybersecurity analyst and all the rest of it. And so actually being able to see how our students have progressed and being promoted through their career path, LinkedIn has been fantastic for that. So cybersecurity analyst, pretty much, the role that we see a lot of our students going into, but that can mean all sorts of things to all different organizations depending on what they're actually up to.
Very true.
Get your foot in the door, work your way up from there. Ian's got a hand up.
I'm just going to say, one, we've got the alumni group on LinkedIn, which all existing students are welcome to join. And that's got a lot of people who've graduated over the last decade in there, some of whom are now quite senior. And I'm an old man. I'm not really a social media sort of aficionado, but certainly in the cybersecurity world, having a Twitter presence is very worthwhile, and you certainly want to be on LinkedIn.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, I'm conscious that we've ran over time a little bit, but I think it was worth it because I think we had some really interesting insight from Lewis there to hear about the application process and the like, and getting a feel for the kind of job opportunities that are out there, because it is confusing. Even the same job title will mean different things to different companies, as I was alluding to just in my last point. So Lewis has very kindly put his details up on here. So please, if you are interested to follow up with him, please do grab his email, pop him a message, let him know that you saw his fantastic talk in the UWEcyber seminar. But with that said, thank you very much, Lewis, for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I hope that, students, I hope you found it really useful. And I hope that, Hamilton Barnes can help you in the future. So thank you very much, everyone.
No, thank you as well, Phil. And just to follow up, I appreciate I've said a lot of things to you guys today. Obviously, my details are there. If you do want to speak, pop me an email and we'll schedule a call, whether it be me or my team, and we can have a chat about your goals, where you want to go. This is, for you third year students, this is the golden period now from March till June. This is where graduate jobs are. So if you want to have a chat, you're starting to leave now, starting to look, pop us a call. We can have a chat about your situation, where you want to go, and start helping you on that road as well.
Excellent.
Thank you, Lewis.
No problem.
Thank you very much, all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Cheers. Thank you.